Hey there, fellow bookworms. Welcome back to Wealth of Words, the show where we crack open those books that make you think. I'm Richard, and tonight we're diving into a book that really rocked the world of sports and business. It's called Moneyball by Michael Lewis.
I'm Isabella, and I'm excited to be here with you, Richard. Moneyball. It's not just a sports story, it's a story about thinking outside the box, trusting in that power of information, and spotting those hidden gems that everybody else just seems to miss.
Yeah, that's right. Moneyball, it takes us into the world of baseball.
You see, the Oakland A's, they were a small market team going up against giants like, well, the New York Yankees. Those guys were the big bucks.
And you know what? They did more than just compete. They often won.
And their secret weapon, data.
Data. The A's, they couldn't just, buy their way to a championship. They had to outsmart the competition, right?
And that's where Billy Beane, their general manager, comes into play. This guy, he was like a data whisperer.
Beane challenged the old school scouts who, were all about those five tools, hitting for average, hitting for power, running speed, arm strength, fielding ability. But Beane, he focused on one thing,
Getting on base.
on base percentage,
Yeah.
OBP. Beane, he knew that getting on base, no matter how you did it, created more chances to score runs.
And Richard, this wasn't always a popular strategy. Scouts saw Beane's approach as almost like heresy, right? Imagine telling a seasoned scout, forget about how fast the player runs. Can he draw a walk?
Yeah, forget the speed. Can he get on base? Huh?
They'd probably have a heart attack. But Beane, he was stubborn. He stuck to his data-driven duns, and it led him to some, well, unconventional players, like, for example, Jeremy Brown.
Now, Jeremy, he was a catcher.
Yeah.
A lot of teams dismissed him because he didn't quite look like a baseball star.
Some scouts even said he had a quote-unquote bad body.
Ouch.
But Beane, he saw something in the data that others missed.
A high on-base percentage.
Brown had this knack for getting on base, and that made him a very valuable asset to the A's.
Like finding a hidden treasure.
Exactly. And this kind of treasure hunt extended to other areas. They looked for pitchers who could induce ground balls, a very statistically sound way to get outs, even if those pitchers didn't have those, blazing fastballs.
The A's had a tight budget, so they really had to stretch every dollar.
They used a metric called cost per win to figure out, just how much each win was costing them based on a player's salary.
They weren't chasing big names. They were after those hidden gems. And this approach led them to some unexpected players. One of them was Chad Bradford, right?
Yes, Chad Bradford. He was a relief pitcher with this really unusual sidearm delivery.
It kind of made scouts scratch their heads.
But Beane's data showed that Bradford, he was incredibly effective at getting those batters out.
So you had those old school scouts with their gut feelings, and then you had Beane with his data, Clash of the Titans.
I remember that great line from the book when scouts criticized Jeremy Brown's physique. Beane famously said, "We're not selling jeans here."
Pam, what a line. Performance over appearance, right? The Moneyball philosophy is all about challenging the way things have always been done.
It's about digging into the data that reveals true value.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
Judge it by its on-base percentage.
Now, even with all this data crunching, remember, baseball, it's like life, right? There's always that element of luck.
You can build a statistically sound team, but you can't control everything. Sometimes a bad bounce or a blown call can change the entire game.
Despite their innovative approach, the A's, they didn't win the World Series during this period.
But they did change the game.
Their story, it forced the whole baseball world to rethink its methods.
Like a data-driven earthquake shaking up the whole sport. And that's just the beginning. Stick around, folks, because we're just getting warmed up with Moneyball.
Welcome back to Wealth of Words. We're still in the middle of Moneyball, and there's so much more to uncover.
Before the break, we were talking about how the A's use data to find those hidden players. But it was more than just, crunching numbers.
Yeah. It was about understanding what those numbers really meant. Billy Beane and his team, especially his assistant, Paul DePodesta, they had to figure out, which stats really mattered, the ones that actually correlated with winning.
They realized that, some of those traditional measures like batting average, they didn't tell the whole story.
Right. What they cared about was how often a batter reached base, no matter how they got there. So walks and on-base percentage became really important.
Because a walk, it's just as good as a hit, right? When it comes to, putting runners on base and scoring runs.
Exactly. And this philosophy, it extended to pitching too. They weren't obsessed with strikeouts, even though, that was traditionally seen as a sign of, dominance.
Right, they focused on those ground ball pitchers.
Because a ground ball, it's less likely to turn into an extra base hit or a home run.
They were thinking a few steps ahead,
Mm.
focusing on the long game, not just the flashy plays.
And that's strategic thinking. Well, that's what let them compete with teams that had way more money. They couldn't afford the superstar, so they had to find, well, those hidden gems, those players who could deliver without breaking the bank.
So instead of going after those home run hitters or, those speedsters, they went for the guys who could draw walks, get on base, and make those ground balls happen.
And they didn't just, stumble upon these players. They created a system to find them, right? They used algorithms and models to predict how a player would perform based on past data.
Like a Moneyball machine. They took all that data and turned it into valuable insights.
And those insights, they gave them a real edge. They could find players who were undervalued, players who other teams just hadn't noticed.
And this data-driven approach, it went beyond just evaluating players, right? They used data to analyze everything: in-game strategy, lineup construction, even went to steal bases.
It's like they were looking at baseball through a whole new lens, one that revealed, all these hidden patterns.
It really makes you think,
Yeah.
about all the areas in life where we could benefit from using data more.
Absolutely. We shouldn't be afraid to challenge the status quo, to question those old traditions.
And sometimes those unlikely candidates, the ones who don't fit the mold, they turn out to be the biggest stars.
Like Jeremy Brown, right. He proved that on-base percentage could be just as valuable as a muscular physique.
Or Chad Bradford, the sidearm pitcher who defied all those expectations.
Yeah.
Moneyball, it reminds us that, that true value, it often hides in the overlooked, the underestimated.
It's about seeing the potential where others see, they see limitations.
It's not just a baseball story.
Yeah.
There are lessons here for anyone who's trying to achieve something big, whether it's in business or sports or even their personal lives.
It's about being different, trusting the data, and finding your own path to success.
Moneyball, it shows us that you don't always have to follow the crowd to succeed, right? Sometimes the best path is the one less traveled.
It's a story about innovation, about determination, and the power of believing in something, even when everyone else, they doubt you.
Well said. Moneyball, it shows us that, you don't need to follow the crowd to find success. Sometimes the best path is the one less traveled.
We're back for the final stretch of our Moneyball exploration here on Wealth of Words. We've seen how Billy Beane and the A's, they used data to challenge those old school ways. Found hidden gems, built a winning team without spending a ton. Talk about hitting a home run on a budget, huh?
It goes beyond just wins and losses, though, right? Moneyball, it left a mark, not just on baseball, but on everything. Yeah, Moneyball, it was like a curveball to the whole world of sports and business. Suddenly, everybody was trying to find their own data guru, to unlock that hidden value, like a data gold rush.
And it wasn't just, about finding the right stats. It was about asking those really important questions.
Yeah.
Moneyball made people, it made them rethink everything, challenge those old ways of doing things.
Like that aha moment, right? When you realize, hold on a second, maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe we've been looking at things the wrong way, this whole time.
Exactly. And that's why Moneyball is still so relevant today. We've got all this data, right? But it's useless if we don't know how to understand it, how to find those golden nuggets.
It's like having a toolbox, a giant toolbox, but you have no idea which wrench to use. Moneyball, it's like a toolbox manual,
And it's not just the numbers. It's about the people, the ability to see potential where others, they just see problems.
Like Beane, right? Seeing that value in Jeremy Brown when everyone else was focused on how he looked.
Or seeing how effective Chad Bradford's pitching style was, even though it was so unusual. It takes a special kind of leader to go against the grain, to see the real talent, no matter where it comes from.
It struck me that Moneyball, it's not some guaranteed recipe for success. The A's they didn't always win, even with the data.
Right. Moneyball, it doesn't have all the answers. It shows us that even with the best data, the best strategies, there's always going to be that element of chance. You can't predict everything. Not in baseball, not in life.
But it does give you a way to, well, to make smarter decisions, to improve your chances.
Yeah, it's about being smart, being strategic, not just relying on luck or gut feelings.
So what does all this mean, for our listeners? How can they take these lessons from Moneyball and use them in their own lives? What's the
Yeah.
takeaway?
Be curious. Question those assumptions we all make, and always be looking for those hidden insights. Be a data detective.
Yeah, don't be afraid to challenge those old ways of doing things. Think outside the box, embrace the data.
Yeah.
It's not just for baseball anymore.
No matter what you're doing, running a business, managing a team, or just trying to make better choices in your personal life, Moneyball, it can help you, it can help you reach your goals.
It's not about finding the perfect formula, right? It's about finding what works for you, what helps you, be your best.
It's about finding your own winning strategy, your own Moneyball approach to life.
And that, folks, is the end of our Moneyball journey. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. It's a book that, well, it makes you think. It's a book that hopefully, inspires you.
Absolutely. If you haven't already, go pick up a copy. Even if you're not a baseball fan, it's a really fascinating story.
And as always, keep those pages turning and those minds expanding. We'll catch you on the next Wealth of Words. Until then, happy reading.